Hey everyone, welcome back. I am so incredibly excited you're here today because we're diving into an explainer that honestly completely shifted how I view my own body. We're going to unpack the ancient, deeply fascinating mystery of blood. Alright, let's jump right in because we have a wild journey ahead of us. Okay, I want you to try something with me. Just picture yourself walking through a totally quiet forest tens of thousands of years ago. You look down, and suddenly you spot this bright red liquid pooling right there on the ground. Remember, there are no doctors around, zero microscopes. The very concept of biology, yeah, that won't even exist for millennia. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What did our early ancestors actually think when they saw blood for the very first time? Now, I know it's hard, but try to temporarily erase every bit of modern scientific knowledge you have in your head. Just wipe the slate clean. To an early human, life was just this series of deeply terrifying yet beautiful mysteries, and this red fluid, well, it was the absolute biggest puzzle of them all. It didn't take them long to pick up on a pretty horrifying pattern. When that red liquid stayed securely inside a body, the person or animal walked around, breathed, laughed, they lived. But if too much of it escaped, that exact same body grew cold. It grew stiff, it became completely still. Long before anyone knew about a heart pumping or, how oxygen moves, they figured out the ultimate cause and effect. So here is the absolutely crucial point. Without the ability to zoom in and see tiny cells, they came to a perfectly logical conclusion. Blood wasn't just some random bodily fluid. To them, it was literal magic. It was the physical manifestation of the life spark itself. Imagine you're watching a hunter bleed out after an animal attack. In their minds, the injury wasn't what was killing them. Their actual soul was leaking out into the dirt, drop by drop. Part 1. Art and the Life Spark. Now, that initial terror we just talked about, it didn't stay as just fear. It actually evolved into this absolute obsession, an obsession that literally birthed human art. What's truly fascinating to me is the specific material they use to express themselves. When archaeologists look at the oldest cave paintings on Earth, they constantly find these handprints pressed flat against the stone walls, and they were made using red ochre. This is a mineral rich in iron oxide, and you know what? It perfectly mimics the deep, dark, rusty color of dry blood. Red became the definitive color of power and survival long before it was ever a modern traffic sign. But why go to all the trouble of finding that exact shade of red? Well, researchers believe it was a profound statement of existence. By painting their hands red and pressing them into the rock, they were essentially saying, I am alive, I exist, and my life force is bound to this stone. It was basically a prehistoric signature made of simulated life force, a way to say, I was here, leaving a permanent mark. Part 2. Sacred Cycles and Sacrifice. Alright, things are about to get a bit more complex as we look at a mind-bending biological exception, one that completely reshaped how ancient societies operated. See, ancient humans noticed a really profound contrast. While bleeding almost always meant imminent danger or death out on a hunt, there was one glaring exception. Women bled regularly without dying, and this cycle was directly connected to the creation of new human life. In their worldview, this wasn't just biology, no way. It was a sacred, supernatural superpower tied directly to the moon and the survival of their entire tribe. Now, I know you're probably sitting there thinking, okay, but what about all those ancient blood sacrifices we always hear about? Well, let's just walk through their logic step by step. Step 1. Blood holds the literal energy of life. Step 2. The gods need energy to run the universe. Step 3. Giving blood is the ultimate transaction. Aztecs, ancient Greeks, they weren't just being senselessly cruel. In their minds, they were offering the single most valuable currency in existence to keep the sun rising and the rain falling. They were just doing whatever they could to keep the world spinning. Part 3. Weapons and ancient medicine. You see, humanity didn't just revere blood. We eventually learned how to weaponize it. Simple observation led to some incredibly dark, yet you have to admit, undeniable practical innovations. We are literally looking at the earliest forms of biological warfare. Tribes figured out that by dipping their arrowheads into the blood of venomous creatures, or even decaying animals, a tiny little scratch could bring down a massive mammoth. Think about that. They had no clue what a microbe was. They just observed the cause and effect and engineered a toxic cocktail that guaranteed a kill. Pretty wild, right? And that exact same cause and effect thinking led straight to ancient medicine. Imagine you're a caveman. Your head is pounding, you have a burning fever, and you feel like you are literally boiling from the inside out. How do you fix that? Well, they invented bloodletting. They assumed evil spirits or toxic energy were trapped inside the blood causing the sickness, so the totally logical yet utterly terrifying solution to them? Just let the bad blood out. Now, what is truly mind-blowing, actually, scratch that, I sometimes completely forget just how recently we stopped doing this, is the astonishing longevity of this practice. Bloodletting didn't just stay back in the caves. It survived through ancient civilizations, right up into the late 1700s. Even George Washington, the very first US president, was subjected to bloodletting by his doctors when he fell ill. For millennia, humanity just clung to this psychological comfort that releasing blood could somehow restore health. Part 4. The ultimate boundary. So where does all of this leave us today? Let's take a second to reconcile these deeply rooted ancient myths with our modern scientific reality. Today, obviously, we have a totally different vocabulary. We talk about plasma, red blood cells, white blood cells, platelets. We understand oxygen transport and clotting. It is so incredibly easy for us to sit back today, look through our high-powered microscopes, and kind of smile at how wrong our ancestors were about evil spirits and magic running through their veins. But I want you to take a second and really compare our modern view against that ancient view. Yes, we know it's a biological fluid, but the ancients, they saw it as a universal connection between humans, deer, and birds, a bridge between the physical and the spiritual. If you strip away all the scientific jargon, were they really that far off in how they conceptualized it? I mean, we all carry that exact same red river inside of us. And this brilliantly illustrates our core takeaway from this explainer today. Blood is, and always has been, the terrifying, beautiful, and incredibly fragile boundary between life and death. Science has given us the mechanics, and hey, we are super grateful for that, but it hasn't changed that fundamental, awe-inspiring truth. It still remains the ultimate symbol of both our extreme vulnerability and our immense strength. Which brings me to one final question for you to chew on. The next time you get a paper cut, or you just happen to see a drop of blood, how are you going to look at it? Will you just see biology at work? Or will you see the ancient life spark that has connected and fascinated humanity since the very dawn of time? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep learning, keep questioning, and I'll catch you on the next one.